Okay, I think it's 3 o'clock, at least in this part of the world. Welcome everybody to the third outcome harvesting community webinar that we are organizing around the use of Podio for the database of outcome harvesting. First of all, apologies that we had to change the timing with 1 hour due to the daylight time saving zones and the need for participation of certain people, but we know we're covering the globe, so it's really difficult to accommodate everybody. But thanks in any case for all of you to be here. Do know that the webinar will be recorded, so there is time to have a look at it later as well. My name is Connie Hoytink. I'm one of the outcome harvesting community facilitators and an outcome harvesting consultant. I would like to ask Gule and Carmen, my co-facilitators, to briefly introduce themselves as well. Carmen, please go ahead. Yeah.
Hi everyone, my name is Carmen Wilson Grau. I'm one of the outcome harvesting community facilitators. I'm based in Guatemala. I hope you are all doing safe now. Welcome.
Okay.
Hi everyone, my name is Gule Scheers. I'm an independent consultant and I'm based in Belgium, and I've been working with outcome harvesting since the very beginning.
Yeah. Okay, thank you Carmen and Gule. We started this in January, this new practice of having monthly webinars, and if you have an idea yourself for a topic that you would like to run a webinar for or share ideas, please feel free to contact us so that we can look together at organizing a webinar. We have a few planned ahead for the coming months, but we're always interested to have more. For this webinar, we would like to ask you, while saying the obvious, and I think you are all you are all muted. Please keep muted, except when we are doing the questions and answers. Then you can unmute and put the video off as well to save bandwidth. The questions, you can post them in the chat. You can do that during the presentations, and after the presentations we will have time to go through each of your questions. We have 3 presenters today. First of all, we have Thea Meineke. She's a project assistant at ActionAid in Denmark, and she is the tech-savvy Podio person of today. Then we have Helene Bach. She will introduce herself later. She is the male coordinator of ActionAid in Denmark, also working with Podio. And Gule, she will present as well. She has been supporting ActionAid Denmark with the use of Podio and doing that for many other organizations as well. As said, we have roughly half an hour of presentations altogether, so that we have half an hour time left for questions and answers and some discussions if there's time. I mentioned the webinar is recorded, and I think I can now ask Thea to start off the presentation. Thea, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Let me just start my video. Hello everyone, and thank you so much for joining the webinar. So this is of course going to focus around the use of Podio for outcome harvesting. Just to give you a brief overview of some of the things that we're going to take you through today. Some of the goals for today is to understand the advantages of using Podio for outcome harvesting, and also knowing how to use the basic functionalities of Podio, and then you'll see some examples of how to do outcomes analysis in Podio using those functionalities. All right, so Podio refer to themselves as a project management tool. I think collaborative database might be a better term. Basically, it is a web application that allows you to store all kinds of information and then also communicate and build your work processes into that setup so that you can talk about the different types of information that you're sharing. And this is why it's ideal for outcome harvesting as well. It has a really flexible setup that allows you to play around with it, change it a bit, which is also a reason why it's ideal. You can basically do a setup that suits the methodology that you're using. While you do need to play around with it a little to figure out how to do these setups, you don't need any programming skills to change it. So it's a web-based application. That means you can access it through your browser, but there is also a mobile app, which I believe that Hule will show you later on. There are free versions available, but I'll get it more into that by the end of this webinar. Yeah, I also wanted to mention that Podio is GDPR compliant, but other than that, I am not too knowledgeable about the legal aspects, but I can send you a link on the terms and conditions if you want to. So this is just a brief look at what the application looks like. This is not an outcome harvesting workspace. I just wanted to show you an example so that you know what we're talking about. Yeah, and then I'm going to introduce you to some of the basic terminology of Podio, because we'll probably be throwing those words around a bit. So I don't know if you can see my mouse, but we have organizations here at the bottom. That's basically the people that you're collaborating with. They can be the people who you share a domain, email domain with, but it could also be externals that you've invited into your organization. Then within an organization, you have different workspaces. They could be divided according to projects or teams or something like that. And then within each workspace, you have apps. You can think of those as repositories on your desktop. So basically, you decide for each app, what kind of information am I going to store in this app? And then you do a setup according to that. So in this case, you would probably have an app storing outcomes. And outcomes is the item that you see here at the very top. Yeah, so the lingo. The first couple of ones I've been through already. Then we have web forms, views, filters, and reports. I'm not going to go through them right now, but if you ever do watch this webinar back, you'll know which words to look out for. Yeah, so that was this first bit. Over to you, Hule.
Thanks, Tia. Okay. So hi again, everyone. I'm sharing my screen here, and that's directly in the Podio app. So I'm going to explain to you about the Podio app that we created, the outcome harvesting app that we created in Podio. So I myself, I'm quite enthusiastic about Podio. I've been using a diversity of databases for outcome harvesting in the past, but I'm enthusiastic about Podio because of its flexibility and about its user-friendliness. So as Tia also mentioned, you don't need an IT person to set this up. Any one of you out there can just make this yourself. So that is really exciting, and also you can collaborate in the Podio tool. I've used it with many different clients of mine, so on different level, different context, and it is fairly easy to use. You can use it for both monitoring and evaluation. So of course, for monitoring, if you're using outcome harvesting, after a certain while, it will become too much to keep your outcomes in Excel. So you need something else to store the outcomes. So Podio provides that opportunity. But actually also for evaluation, it can be useful because, for example, I use it in outcome harvesting workshops, so where I collect the outcomes with participants. So this is something you can use in the workshop itself. So you have all the outcomes in one place, and you can even show them what type of outcomes they have in there by the end of the workshop. So in that sense, it's really a flexible tool. Especially in these times where we're all locked in our houses and we can't have many workshops, it's also a great tool to really harvest the workshops virtually with your partners. So having said that, I'm going to show you how to get to the app. So this is an app that we created for outcome harvesting. So you can create one yourself, but we made it easy for you and we created one that you can use. I have to mention this app is meant as a starting point because we all know outcome harvesting has to be adapted to your context, and your templates will look different or have different needs. So in that sense, you can just easily adapt it, but you do have a starting point. So as Connie has mentioned, we are recording this webinar. So if you want to try out Podio later on, you can just sign up. Signing up is for free and you get the basic functions. So you can easily play this recording again and try out what I'm saying and what I'm showing you now. So how do you get to the app? So if you look on my screen here, you see this function here that says add app. So if I click on that, you see two options appearing on my screen. It says create your own app or go to the app market. So if you, so you can easily create it yourself, but in this case, I'm going to show you how to get to our app. So you click go to the app market. And you'll see a diversity of apps that already exist, but you just have to enter in this screen, in the search function here, you enter outcome harvesting. And then you will get the outcome harvesting app with the explanation to it. So you can just say get app, and then it will allow you to store the app anywhere in your Podio workspaces, so you can choose that. I'm not going to do that here because I already have it installed. But so this is how you get to the actual app. All right, so once you're in there, let me just go back. So once you have the app, this is how it will look like. So what you see here is two outcomes. So it's still pretty empty. So basically, every time that you enter an outcome, you will see them appearing here on this screen. So there's one outcome from ActionAid in here, and there's another outcome in here that was just made up. So you can just see every outcome here on the screen. And Helena will later show you how that looks like if you have a lot of outcomes in there. What I'm going to show you now is how you add an outcome in the template that we have created. So here on the right-hand side, you see this green button that says Add Outcome. So if I click that, I get into the template. So this is a template that we added some of the categories that many of you will use, but you will have to adapt it, and some may be unnecessary for you, so you can easily change that. But so the main functionalities that you see here are the outcome description. You will see the significance description, and the contribution description. So that is a basic outcome statement. And then you have different fields and categories that you can add. So it's very easy to just type in here, and these things work with a drop-down menu. So you can just choose to which project, for example, the outcome is contributing to. You add the outcome description. And so on. So this is just a text field, and you can even change the formatting, but most of the time that won't be necessary. So you just click outside of the box and the outcome is in there. You can choose the categorizations, and all these fields are used later in the analysis, so you have to decide which ones you need for your analysis. Country is an option, type of social actor. So in this case, it was a government changing. So I made some categories in here of social actors, but you can add a different one if you have others. In case your social actor is not in the list, you can add it in a text field as well. You will also have seen that for some of these, there's a screen popping up. There's a help field. So for example, for the outcome description, it says, please remember to describe who changed what, when, and where. So again, even this help text is very flexible to change it, and this will help. So you don't have to put all the information on the left-hand side, but you can easily just put it in a help text. The red star means that it's obligatory, but you can also choose which questions they have to fill out or which are optional. But it will not let you go further if you haven't filled out these fields. So for example, which goal is this outcome contributing to? Which thematic area does it link to? Is it an expected or unexpected outcome? And then you enter your significance description. So again, that's a text field. We added the significance rating. So there's a possibility to rate your significance of the outcome. But for some that might not be needed, so you can easily take that out. And again, the outcome description is a text field. So you can put that in. You can also rate the extent to which you contributed. So it may be that you contributed a lot, but there's also some others who contributed. This is the contribution strategy. So after the description of the contribution, you can say to which of your strategies in your program this links, which strategy you used. What is very helpful as well is to say if this is a draft outcome or not, because using Podio, that means that everybody can just at any time put their outcomes in here. So it may be that they see an outcome appearing and they put it in very quickly, but they need to still revise it when they get back to the office, for example. So you can say this is just a draft, I need to finalize it. You also have some categories for substantiation. So once you have your criteria for substantiation, you can indicate if substantiation is needed or not, put in the contact details of the substantiator, and even say whether the substantiation has been completed or not. There's also an option to add files to this, so that you can just, for example, for the substantiation, upload files that indicate that already are a verification of your outcome. So you can just link them. So again, you can just adapt this template to what is needed for you, but this is a starting point. Don't forget, of course, to press Save Outcome once you're done. And if you then click here on top, it will take you back to your start screen, and you will see that my outcome has been added here. So we have now 3 outcomes in here. So this way you can just continue and put your outcomes in here. And so everyone can just do this. Your partners from different locations can just put in their outcomes into this database. So it's not just one person entering this, but different people can enter their outcomes in here. Helena will explain you later on what all these things here on the side mean. It gives you an overview of the outcomes that you've already harvested, but I don't have so many outcomes in here, so it wouldn't tell you that much. So I'm also going to show you how to modify your template. So if you see here this tool, you can click on it and it says modify template. So what you see here is the template that I created for you. And you can just add or change everything. So for example, any of these you can just change to a project of yourself. You just type it in, you click on the left and it's added, so you add a field. You can just drag in a new field. So you can say, okay, I need another text field. So you just choose it from the left-hand side and you drag in your text field. The other way around, you see this cross here on the right. So you can just take it out. So on your left-hand side, you see all these different fields that you can put in. So it can be an email, phone number, a drop-down menu. So you can just choose which one you need for your question. And then again, if you click next to this category here at the beginning, you will see that you can make it a required field, or you can also hide it if necessary. And you can also indicate how many lines you need, or if it's single choice or multiple choice. And then here you would see there's an help text. So you can here put in the text that will later appear in yellow. So it's very flexible, very easy to do. You can change all of this and you can just take out. So you can also just take, if you don't need one of these questions, or for example, you don't want to look at the country, but you want to look at a certain region, you just delete it and you put in what you need for yourself. And again, here you have the cross if you want to take the full question out. So that's the flexibility. So you can make it as long or as small as you want this template. I'm gonna close it now. Okay. So if you don't want to give everybody access to the workspace, but just have a simple questionnaire for them, this possibility is also offered by Podio. So again, you go to this tool. If you want to find anything in Podio, you just go to this little tool and it will show you most of the options. And you click on web form. And automatically, Podio will generate a template based on the template you had just now in the workspace, the one you just saw. So it will have the same fields there, right? So so Podio will generate a link, so it says shareable link. So you can just send this link to anyone and they get this template, they can fill it out, and once they press the save button or submit the outcome below, it will be stored in the Podio database. So in that sense, they don't need to go to the actual template in the workspace, but they can just work on it via the link. Everything is again very flexible, so you don't have to add every field that you have in the template, in the workspace, to this template. So it may be, for example, that some of the fields are meant for the M&E coordinator, but the partners only need to fill out a few fields. So you can select them here on the right, which one you need or you don't need. So for example, if I click on who formulated the outcome, if I say I want to know the names of the people who submitted it, then you just click on it and automatically it appears. So again, everything is very flexible, and that's a nice thing about Podio. So you just build it yourself. The last thing I want to show you is there's also a Podio app. So if you look into the App Store or Play Store, you will find the the Podio app there. And I'm just going to show you a screenshot of what that looks like. So what you see here on my screen is a screenshot or two screenshots of the Podio app, the mobile app. So if you open it on your mobile phone, you will basically see the same things, but of course a bit smaller than I just showed you on the screen. So on the left-hand side, you will see the outcomes that are in there. So in this case, there's just 2 outcomes in there, but you can scroll down in case you have more outcomes. And if you then click on this, that's my time's up sign. If you then click on this, this plus here, the blue plus, then you can enter a new outcome. And basically you see every of these fields that I just showed you on the screen is also in your mobile app. So that means that wherever you are or wherever your partners are, they can always put an outcome from their mobile phone straight into the Podio database and then collaborate on them. So Helena will also explain you a bit this commenting on the outcomes, which I haven't showed you, but Helena will talk a bit more about that. Over to you, Helena.
Thanks, Gule. In the meantime, I'm keeping track of all the questions coming in. Helena, go ahead.
Yes. Yes, hello everyone. I will first briefly explain the background of why we decided to use Podio, and then the setup we have, and then a bit on the use, how we are using it. The background, we started out our outcome harvesting journey by doing an external evaluation where we used Excel to store the outcomes and make for the analysis. And that was doable because it was a limited number of outcomes. Then the next step was that we wanted to use outcome harvesting for monitoring at the beginning only of selected programs, but that was bigger than what we could really manage in Excel. So we started out by looking into different database options, and we were really very far in a dialogue with a consultant to set up a Drupal database. And then in a kind of coincidentally, we discussed with colleagues on Podio, because at that time Podio was our communication and project management system, but we were not really aware how it could be used as a database. The M&E people that were looking into what system to use for outcome harvesting. So then in dialogue with colleagues, we figured out that this was really a system that could do a lot for us related to outcome harvesting, where some of the advantages Thea and Røhle has already explained, that it's very flexible. For us, it was also an advantage that most of our partners were already using the system, and for us that it was a system we already had, so there were no additional cost to it. So that was a bit on the background. Then I'll just briefly explain the setup, how we have customized some of the things from the standard app to our system, or actually we developed this system and the setup, and then some of the learnings had been used to do this standard app. So here you see an outcome. First, there's the outcome description ID that is generated automatically from Podio. Then we use an outcome title, because now when we have many outcomes, you can very fast look across a lot of outcomes and to see what it is about. The latest update, the country, and you can see when I mouse over, then the help text is coming up. Who entered the outcome, the email address, we may mostly use that when if it's a user who entered the outcome that is not a Podio user. The status of the outcome description, where you again see the help text coming up. Who, and here, of course, we have set it up so you can only press one. It's only one. It's not multiple choice. Where, when, in the standard app, it's done differently with a year. We have done it as a calendar, where if it's in 2019, we just take the 1st of January, or if it's July 2019, we take the 1st of the month. Why was the outcome significant? The rating, we have 3 categories where in the standard app was suggested a kind of percentage rating. Contribution of the program, level of contribution. Then we have for the kind of implementation strategy, we have some very customized support modalities, the way we support the different programs. And here you can have a multiple choice, so you can have as many as you like. The outcome change level, oh, sorry, back, just go back here. The outcome change level, and there we have the thematic areas or the strategic areas, how it relates to our theory of change, what decision-making spaces it relates to. Indicate the funding if not Danida. We use outcome harvesting mainly on our large Danida funded program, but we also have a EC funded program, and if an outcome is co-funded or relate to the PANAF, the EC funded program, it's exported into another workspace. And if other, you can also specify which. Substantiation, like who to contact, or you can also put in links and choose a file. So this is the setup for each of the outcomes, and as you can see, you can really customize it as you like. Just a bit then on the ping pong back and forward, we are testing out different ways of doing that, and we have to kind of wrap up and see what is working in the best way. One way we have done is, like you can see here, where you can write and put it in a different color, and then the respondent can reply, and then you delete the color section. Or you can add a comment here and also tag the name of the person. What we have also done on the ping pong is to export it, all the outcomes for a certain country, into an Excel sheet and share it with partners. So of course that also depends on how familiar your partners are with Podio, and if they are actually users there, or if you use the web form and with external people. Then I will just show you a bit on how it looks, as Røhle said, when there are many outcomes. So here we have all our outcomes sorted out by the different countries. And there, for example, the way we use it sometimes, like these support modalities. For example, I have colleagues who are responsible for their advisors. Then you can filter out, so you only see all the outcomes where the advisors have contributed, and then you can share. I can share with colleagues who are responsible for that. For example, also on the thematic areas, all the outcomes related to economic opportunities and decent work. And then I can share that with colleagues who are responsible for that specific area. So that was on the setup. Then very briefly at the end about the use, how we have used it. As I said in the beginning, we started out doing outcome harvesting as an obligatory part of our M&E system only on selected programs. And now from this year, we are starting using outcome harvesting on all our country programs. So that's also a good advantage of Podio, that is flexible. But some of the work we are doing now is really work in progress and testing out things, as I said, with the ping pong, how to do that. We have been harvesting in workshops where we have sent out the web form to all the participants before the workshop. So they could start harvesting. We have both done so they can start harvesting before the workshop, where we have shared the introductory video as well. So we actually have some material at the workshop, but we have also, if it's people that are not familiar with the outcome harvesting, harvested at the workshop, but still using the web form. And if you share this web form with people, they can enter as many outcomes. It's not closing when you have entered one outcome. Of course, if they are not users in Podio, they can edit the outcomes. So there we have at the workshops divided into groups, where there's one Podio user in each of the group that can then go in and facilitate the ping pong and editing of the outcomes. If there is bad internet connection, or if the partners are not really using Podio, we have also harvested outcomes in Word documents and then entered afterwards in Podio. Yeah, I think that's yeah. What I also wanted to share is then when we actually have the outcomes, as I said, you can extract and take out selected outcomes from different countries. For example, here we have done sense-making workshops, for example, in Kenya. Then I take out all the outcomes from Kenya. I export them to an Excel file. Tia will show you that. Then print all the outcomes, cut them out, and then you have the possibility to have all the outcomes from Podio, and you can do the sense making in this participatory way where you have the outcomes printed out. You can play around with them. Another thing that we have also done is, for example, you have one outcome, you copy this, and then I sent to my colleague who is doing communication and change stories, and then they can see if this is a story they can use. So yeah, I think that was all for now on the background, the actual setup and how we use it. And over to Tia.
Thank you very much, Helene. Very interesting. Tia, indeed, over to you. I'm not sure whether you looked at the questions already, but there are a few basic tech questions about compatibility, open source. Well, I can go through it. Go ahead.
Yeah, I did look at a few of them.
Good.
Right. So I'm just going to show you some of the Podio functionalities that we've used in the analysis of outcomes. So once they have been harvested and finalized. So sometimes you might want to do some aggregative analysis. So let's say that you want to have a look at all of the outcomes that have been finalized. That'll then return a certain number once it's done. Yeah, 133. And then you might want to know, so how many outcomes do we have for each country? You can use this reports function to do that. Oops. So you want to count the number of outcomes per country, and then that will return a list over here. If you're using the premium version, you can also do bar charts. Yeah. If I was to click this green button, I would save it to the overall reports format. I'm not going to do that, but I can just show you what that looks like. So these are some reports that we've saved over time. So this is something that we can continuously check whenever new outcomes come in. Yeah, so we have one on the modalities, one on when the outcomes were harvested, one on what level of change we're talking about, etc. So these are some reports that you can save, and the visual aspects are only available to premium users. Yeah, so that was one functionality. However, these analytical tools are limited. You can only do one tagging at a time, for instance. You can't change the colors. There are lots of different things that you might want to do elsewhere. Then instead, what you can do is that you can click this wrench. So for instance, let's say if we do that you only, as Selena said, want to look at, let's say, all the outcomes for Zambia. Then you get 41 outcomes. Then you might want to play around with them in Excel, because you can do a different kind of analysis in Excel. Then you choose this wrench, you click Excel export, so start export, and then once it is ready, here we go, you click this one. This will also appear up here in your notifications bar, and then you click this one to start the actual download. And then you will get each of the fields as columns, and you can do whatever analysis you prefer there. Right.
Are you ready, Thea, or are you?
Yeah, no, good. Here we
Super.
go. Right, so that was just an example of how we can do analysis. Right, so if you do watch this webinar back, some things you can try if you want to practice your Podio skills is to edit the template as Huda showed you. You can try creating and saving a private view in the app, so this bar, the pane that you have on the left side. And then you can try submitting an outcome via the web form and inviting a collaborator to your workspace. So that was just some suggestions. Then I have some general remarks on the use of Podio. So I noticed that quite a few questions have to do with the prices. So I'm just going to show you the plans. And as you'll see, there is a free plan available if you're less than 5 employees. And when we talk about employees, we're talking about people with the same email domain. Where you might run into problems is that there is a limit to how many items, so in this case, outcomes you can add to each app. I believe the number is still quite high, but just so you know. We also have this thing right here, which might be very useful, which is a light user role, meaning that you could invite collaborators into your workspace and do the ping pong on a specific outcome without worrying about them editing other people's outcomes. But that is also something that you'll find in the Plus version. And then finally, this thing I mentioned about visual reports, which is something that you might run into. But you can definitely try it out using the free version. Also, Podio is quite interested in getting new NGOs as customers, so you can always try and contact them and ask for an offer. Yeah. So as I said, it is GDPR compliant. The setup is flexible, but it is worth noticing that if you have a lot of people in your workspace, a lot of collaborators who change things around and create new apps, you might also end up with a structure that's very hard to work with and a little bit too complex. So just be wary that that might actually happen. Then you can grant collaborators access, as I said, but if you don't have the light user role, you also have to be very wary that they don't edit outcomes you don't want them to edit. Yeah, and then I also just wanted to say that it is a cheap tool. The support is limited. It was started by a Danish company about 10 years ago, and some of these Danes are still involved, but it was since bought out by the American company Citrix. They still have an office in Copenhagen, and some of the original people are still working with it. So they're quite passionate, but in general, the support team is limited. So yeah.
Yeah, a few people are asking whether you can show the Excel export.
What it looks like once it's been exported?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah. And there was also a question in the meantime, if you can handle that. Is this compatible with MacBook Pros?
Yeah, so you access it via your browser. So it's compatible with any system.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so yeah, once you've exported it and choose this, it'll download. And this is what it'll look like. So you'll have the unique IDs, the created bys, and then obviously these are the categories that we're using. So it has an outcome title, countries, etc. Yes. Another thing that I think...
Tia, maybe you can't see the Excel on the screen. You have to change the screen, I think.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so basically you'll just see the categories as columns.
And then if I can just add, then you get everything, and then when I'm using it, I just delete the columns I don't need, and then you have the most essential ones back, and you can print. And maybe Tia, you can also explain this with importing again to post.
Yeah, definitely. So I'll just need a new share again, I think. Yep, there we go. All right, so when you are in a workspace, again, by clicking this wrench, you will have the option to do Excel import. And basically that's just, yeah, any Excel sheet that you might be storing your outcomes in, and then you'll need to map the title of each column to one of the fields. Yeah, I don't really have an Excel sheet ready, so I can't really show you, but it is rather intuitive. But you do have to be careful, because if you're using just slightly different categories in your Excel sheet, let's say for the tagging, you've misspelt the name of the country, all of a sudden you'll have some outcomes related to Zambia with 1A and some related to Zambia with 2A's, for instance. That's something to be wary of.
Thank you very much, Tia.
Yeah.
This is a very rich, information-dense webinar. Thank you so much. And there's still quite a number of questions pending. Some of them may have been answered already, but maybe you can say something. Some people were wondering the subscription fees that you mentioned about. That is, it's monthly, but is it for one person or for several, or for everybody? Is it, I think, for Tia to answer?
Yeah, I don't actually remember. Hang on.
Okay, well, we can do that later.
But
Yeah.
I think what's important to note with the prices as well, that if you look at the number of users, that's the number of users for your organization. So that means the people who have the same email address as you. For example, for ActionAid, that's everyone with the email address actionaid.dk. That means that if you use it with your partners who have a different email address, they don't pay to be part of the workspace. So you can have unlimited external users there. So that greatly influences the price as well.
Okay. And you have to be online to use Podio, right? There's no offline version available? Tia?
Yeah, so no offline version available, but especially the web forms, they work with very limited internet. So even if you just have a very brief edge connection, you will still be able to use it. And otherwise, the Excel import is an option if you.
Okay. Do you need a license specifically, or you can just? Yeah, but that's what you pay for. That has been answered. And the functions that you were showing were not just the free version. It was also another question. I suppose you showed what you have, which is the paid version, right?
Yeah, so we do have some functionalities of the paid version, not all of the premium features, but some of them. But I think the only thing that I've specifically showed you that is not included in the free version is the bar charts.
Yeah, okay, okay.
And I think actually that links to another question that I saw, and that's, so it's not an analysis tool in that sense, so it will give you some basics with showing the numbers or showing the bar chart, which is really nice to use in a workshop as well, so people can immediately have an overview of where they are with their outcomes. But it doesn't allow you to do any fancy analysis other than that, so you would need to export it to other tools to do so.
Yeah, yeah. Ponga, I saw a few questions from Ponga, and I had hoped to invite a few people to pose their questions. Ponga, can you share the questions that you had, which was about categorization, I believe.
Oh, thank you so much, everyone, for the wonderful presentations on Podio. I wanted to find out, the first question I had was whether it was compatible, whether Podio was compatible with MacBook Pro, which you've already answered. But now I wanted to find out, there was an option for multiple choices. And I want to ask, if an outcome addresses, say, 3 goals at the same time, how is it captured in Podio? And if an outcome also is was achieved, say, using 3 different strategies at the same time, how is it captured so that it can make the analysis easy? Thank you.
Is that?
Well, it depends what you mean with capture. So you can set the template, you can use and say that it's multiple choice, right? So in that sense, it captures the multiple answers, if that's what you mean. And the way you use it for analysis, of course, is that you would export it to Excel and use it there.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Is that sufficient as an answer of Ponga? Then I would like to go to Alex, who had a question about confidentiality of data. Alex.
Hello everybody. This is Alex Tiernan. I've joined with somebody else's username, so it looks like I'm Jana Fox. But I wanted to ask about confidentiality. Now, it has, start my video. Okay. It's a question that was half answered because you told us about the web app. You said that partners could enter information through a web app. So if there was real confidentiality issues, I suppose I could use that. But if somebody is a Podio user, is there a way of hiding other outcomes from me, or do I see all outcomes automatically? That's my first question. And second question is a little bit more technical, and it's for Thea. Can you tell us anything about how Podio, or particularly this app, could relate to other databases? Do you know anything about whether there is an API which allows data to be pulled or pushed into or from another database. And I mean this very simply in relation to if I have a partner working on a particular project, could the partner choose a project from a drop down to say, my outcome relates to this project, or is that not possible? Thank you.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, so specifically on the API question, there are APIs for Podio, but I believe that for most of them, if you want to connect, say, Microsoft Access or a different database, you would need something called Globiflow, which is the software that the API runs through, and that is a paid service. So that's kind of the problem there, but it is possible. The other way that you might be able to do it is that you can create your projects in a different app and then have these apps link up and then do exactly what you're describing, allowing the people to choose a project from a drop down that then relates to a different app. I also have a few comments on the confidentiality. So there's no way to hide items effectively from users of the same workspace. There are two ways to do it. First of all, if you create different workspaces within your organization, you can exclude members from those. So that's one way to do it. The other one is that it might be specific fields that you want to keep confidential, and then you can hide those from the app. So those are the two ways of doing it, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay. Is there, with this confidentiality question, sufficiently answered, Alex? And there was a related question about where the data are being stored. Do you know, Thea?
Yes, they were answered. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And Thea, you know where the data are being stored?
I believe with Citrix in North Carolina.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Then somebody asked, well, can consultants use it with no organization email? I suppose so, right? It's not that you have to have an organization. You
Yes,
use it
exactly.
with Gmail.
So every consultant can just use it, and the advantage will be that your clients will all be external users, so you don't even need a more advanced subscription for that. You can just go ahead with the basic function.
Yeah. Okay. Then is there an option? Inge asked, is there an option to label the outcomes as final and then avoid it from being edited? Has that been dealt with? Like that it's finalized and no people can touch it anymore.
Like lock it.
Yeah. Helene, is that?
Yeah, maybe I can just answer, and Thea, you come in with the more technical parts of that. We have not done it yet, but we have talked about making a master workspace where all outcomes that are completed are exported into that workspace, and then that workspace only have very few users.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, but really locking is not the case. Really locking.
It needs to go to a different workspace.
Yeah. So maybe once you download it into Excel, then you have it and you store it there as a final. So it's really, and maybe that links to the question from Barbara, and for sake of time, I'll just read it out. Barbara from South Africa says, I love the visuality, but since it cannot do any complex analysis, can you explain maybe again why this is better than doing everything in Excel? Is it because of the ease of filling in, or of the basic aggregation, or because you can project it onto a screen in a workshop situation? I mean, that's all obvious advantages, but what is it to you?
Yeah, but maybe I can answer what advantages it has been for us. First of all, I think when you have a lot of outcome, I think Excel gets it gets a little difficult to keep the overview of the different versions, and when you're doing editing, and so I think this with Podio now you have a function where you can see this is the final one, this is the approved one, and for the ping pong as well, that you can actually have a dialogue with the people who entered the outcome. And then what I think is extremely useful for us is this web form that people, you can share this web form and people can enter outcomes, and that's very useful when it's for monitoring, so that it's not just happening in a workshop you are harvesting outcomes, but you can send this web form to people who has participated in trainings, or your partners or young activists we have been working with. So it's much more it has more interactive features than Excel has, for sure.
And I think it's really this collaboration that is very important. And even, you know, imagine in your own organization, you may have different projects or different countries, and all these people can also look at each other's outcomes and comment on each other's outcomes and have a discussion online on these outcomes in a very flexible way. So I think that's really the advantage it offers.
Yeah, okay. And indeed, managing the data and the versions, which otherwise would go up and down with so many different emails and attachments, etc. Then Leo Stolek, hi Leo, is asking whether there's a demo environment where we can explore and try. Or is it just a free version, I guess, right? Maybe Leo came in later. Isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, so it's actually the basic version. You can just sign up for the free version and play around with it, test everything out. Don't be afraid to push buttons. You can't do much wrong. Yeah, and just test it out.
Yeah, okay.
And maybe just to add to that, we're on a point, is so if you, after this workshop, or after this webinar, are going to try it out, and you're going to try out the Podio, the outcome harvesting app, feel free to write us an email in case you get stuck, so we can help you.
Yeah, yeah. And then we have a bit of time, so I just simply continue because there's still many questions that sometimes I doubt whether they've been half answered. Pong was answering, he said, okay, Helen, you're answering it. Huh? We send the web form in an email. When they enter an outcome, it comes directly into the Podio. Okay, yeah. Yeah, all right. That's the use of the web form. Then there was, let me see where this question, Barbara also asked, can you use the web form link repeatedly, or is that only for one outcome per link?
You can use it repeatedly. So if you send the link to a partner organization, they can use it for 10, 20 outcomes, just one outcome per web form.
Okay. Yes.
And you can easily have a button at the end of the web form that says submit next outcome. So you can just, in one click, go to the next outcome.
Okay. Then Chano Juf was asking whether Podio has a user guide. It seems like you are the user guide. And can the app be customized to be used for other M&E approaches, like outcome mapping or most significant change? That's a creative question.
Yes, because you can just change this. You can create your own template, your own workspace. Everything is adaptable.
Yeah.
But even not just for M&E, it's also used for project management. If you go into the app market, you will see a lot of things that it's been used for. So yes.
Okay. Yeah. But and is there a user guide?
There are videos on the Podio website. And these kind of things,
Yeah, and then there's something called Podio Community where people ask questions, and you can usually find something that kind of relates to your question. So that's an option.
Yeah, okay. And then there was, I think, Rick Davis, has your question been answered? Can you set up analysis templates, like pre-formatted cross-tabulations of specific fields? I'm not sure whether I'm getting this. Rick, are you still there?
I think it refers to what Tia has shown with the reports it can make. So it has just basic analysis function, but you can't do a lot of cross-tabulations.
Okay, then I'm not sure whether everybody saw in the chat that Mario Marais was asking whether there are other users in South Africa, and Mario would like to contact with them. And I know Barbara Klugman is from South Africa, but if there's others, maybe you can get in touch with you directly. Maybe let me know in the chat. We're actually 1 minute ahead of closing time, so I would like to use this opportunity to close off. Carmen, do we have a next slide with the next webinar planned already? Because we have planned another one. Yes, thank you very much. Because of these crazy times that we're all getting very quickly used to sitting behind our laptops and enjoying webinars, we have organized for another webinar already next week And Barbara, Steph, and Sarah have been so kind to share their experiences in working in a creative, interactive manner with these participatory approaches online. So that is next week, April the 9th, same time, 3 p.m. So for now, I would like to ask you very much for all your participation, and of course, Helene and Tia, and also Gule for their sharing of all the insights and the details on Podio. The recordings, we will send you the link, but you will also be able to find it later on our website. We have a section where we store the links to the recordings. Then in the longer series, actually the series that we started these monthly webinars off, that is the presentations that we all did, or we coordinated, at the American Evaluation Association conference last November. We started with this idea of saying, well, there's so many people who have not had the opportunity to join in this conference in Minneapolis it was. So let's redo and take a bit more time for all these topics. So as part of that regular webinars on the sharing that we did at the American Evaluation Conference, we have the second, or actually the third webinar for this month planned for the 21st of April. So we're really going far ahead and speeding up our rhythm of webinars in the new life. So that will be about the webinar of the 21st April will be about substantiating outcomes in a low trust environment. And then we will have Nick van der Jacht from NIMD and Jonna Hapanen from Demo Finland presenting for us. I think that is it so far. Is there anything that I have forgotten? Carmen or Gule, help me if I...
No.
No, I'm just telling people whose questions did not get answered due to time limit, they can send us an email and we'll try to get back on that, follow up.
Send an email or even through the community.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you, Connie.
Thank you very much. Have a good day. Stay safe and see you soon.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you for
Bye.
joining.
Yeah.